Welcome to another valuable how-to video. In this video, we're going to talk about how the AI thinks about your new items and how to identify them, name them, describe them, and price them. So here we are in our test account, Sunshine Estate Sales, and we have our project 133 Middlefield Lane. Now, if we go into the Manage tab, we'll see the Manage AI. And it's a good place to start. Let's make sure we have some instructions for our AI in here. And in this case, we say we run estate sales in middle-class neighborhoods in Raleigh, North Carolina, price to sell on day one. And I've added in a previous session a specific direction about this specific sale, this specific project. And it says it's expected to rain this weekend, so it's going to be hard to get people to turn up. That's going to affect the pricing estimation, so that's a good thing to put in there. I could also put the physical location, even the neighborhood, or even the address. I could put that in. And in future updates, we're going to make that easier and automatic. I can save this or I can change it. But here's the thing to know. If I change it or save it or create instructions in this project, then I'm going to have to do the same thing in project after project, every new project. So I want all of my projects to have certain instructions no matter. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to go to the nav button on the lower left-hand side, and I'm going to go into my sales, and I'm going to go up to the parent folder, sales events. And in here, I can tap on the dot option menu and I can edit AI instructions. Now, here's the thing to know. Every folder, and projects are a type of folder, inherit their instructions when they're created from the parent folder. So when I create a new project or sale, it's going to check and see if I've got any instructions here in this folder. And I don't. So I can say here, I run estate sales in Raleigh and see price to sell on day one. And I can leave it as simple as that, or I can write a whole paragraph or a bunch of notes. And many people do. In fact, you can get pretty sophisticated in what you want to tell your AI. In fact, we'll get into this a little later, but we can describe the number of characters that you want the name to be maxed out to, no more than 50 characters. You can say, I only want two sentences of description. You can say that you only want things that are truly 100 years old or more to be called antique. There's all sorts of things that you could put in here, and you could also write a lot of thoughts about the way you want to price things and how much you want to discount different kinds of sources like Cherish or eBay or what have you. So you can put all of that in, and every new project that is created inside this folder will get these instructions. Now, that's in our sales events folder, but we've got this other territory folder. We could put different instructions in here. And in fact, that's a good way to think about folders is if you have very different instructions, say you run an auction site and an estate sale, well, your auction site's going to have different kinds of instructions, different ways of pricing, different ways of describing things. You might want every item to have a lot number, that sort of thing. You can add those instructions at the folder level. But when you create a project here, you'll get the instructions and also the membership. Don't forget that. If you go in here and you say manage members, the members that have access to your territory will also have access to everything inside that folder. So if they're a group administrator, they're going to be a group administrator of any project inside territory two, and so on. In fact, you could go all the way up to franchise, your franchise one, and then you can add at the root level or inside any of the folders. You can add your instructions. So that's how we make sure that the folders have inheritance down to projects. So franchise one, and I can say, well, in franchise one, do I have any instructions? Edit instructions. No, I don't have any instructions here. And maybe for my franchise, I don't want them. Maybe I want those down in sales events where I'm putting my new projects. Because understand that if you put your instructions up here in your franchise, but you create projects inside sales events, if there's no AI instructions in your sales event, you won't have any instructions into your project. So let's go in here and we'll create a new project. Create new project, and I can say new test project, or let's call this 555 Westfield Lane. And I'm going to decide where I want to put this. Where should this be created? I'm going to go up to my sales events, and I'm going to hit selected there, hit next, and I'm going to add one folder. I'm going to call it bedroom to illustrate something else that I want to show you in a second. Hit the plus sign, hit next, and we won't bother with photos. At this point, I can add specifics about this sale. I can say this is in a upper class neighborhood, very expensive luxury items. And we can put that in, and that way, when comparables come up for any new item that you're putting into inventory, the AI will make different assumptions about whether or not the comparable consumables, the very expensive ones, should be included in the pricing estimate. So let's just create that project. And we won't add any members because we already have that. We're going to go right into that project. And sure enough, if we look at the instructions, there it is. There they are right there. So that's how you inherit standard instructions from your project folders and then modify them on a project basis. Now, you also may want your folders inside that project to have different instructions. To do that, you navigate to your folder like bedroom here, and we'll go into Westfield Lane and bedroom. We'll tap on the options for bedroom and we hit AI instructions there, because even the subfolders have special instructions. And you'll notice that this subfolder only got the standard instructions. So I can add specifics here. I can also create a new folder, and look what happens when I do that. I'll call this dining room, right? And when I go into these instructions, you'll see that the luxury items are put in there. Now we're going to change this a little bit so that folders that are created during project creation inherit those instructions that you set up during the project creation, but any new folders inside your project will inherit those instructions. Now, there is one thing you need to know. If you change instructions here, this is a rainy weekend. Let's put that in. You'll notice that when you go into the dining room and you edit the AI instructions, it hasn't changed. Now, we are working on a way to optionally cascade any changes from a parent folder down into their subfolders. So that would make it easier to ensure that your folders are consistent. But there are cases when you don't want changes to a project to affect changes in a subfolder. You might have a folder in your project that needs a very specific set of special instructions, and you wouldn't want to blow those away. You change them in your project. So right now, just for safety, anytime you change a parent folder's set of instructions, if there are already items or projects or folders inside, they would need to get those changes as well. And you'd have to do those manually for now. And we're working on a way to do that in a more automated fashion. So that's how you create and manage instructions on a project and folder basis. And lastly, let me explain how the AI interprets your instructions. So if we go into the camera, you'll notice that we have the tap for notes. We can record notes, and these notes take precedence over any other instruction. So if you say this lamp is a specific type of lamp, even if the comparables come back and contradict you, the AI will prioritize your instructions in the new item. So I'll get out of here. And then it prioritizes the instructions in this project or in the folder you're in. So if you down inside the bedroom, the instructions for bedroom, which remember you can find in the tab button under that project dining room there, not here and manage. These are the overall project instructions. So if you have different instructions for your subfolders than your project itself, make sure you're looking in the right place for those instructions. And especially if you created a folder before you added any instructions to the project, because those folders won't have any special instructions. So the AI takes these instructions, the instructions of the folder that the item is going into next, and then we have instructions that go into every new item. For example, if you are adding something that's gold or silver, it knows from our instructions to look up the spot prices for this day on Kinsa, for example. So that's how the AI interprets the various instructions from your dictation notes down to your project notes, all the way down to the instructions we give it to make sure your items are well priced and well described. That's how the Valuable AI interprets your instructions to get the right name at the right price with the right context and interpret all those many comparables that we capture that you've seen in other videos. And that's it. We'll see you in the next video.